We have all been taught that a diamond is forever. It is one of the most beautiful promises ever made. It is also one of the most profitable lies ever sold. Picture it. A small box opens. A single stone catches the light. And a promise is made that this love, like the diamond, will last forever. That one image sits at the heart of almost every wedding on Earth, and it did not get there by accident. One company put it there, on purpose. That company is De Beers. For most of the last 100 years, nearly every diamond sold on the planet passed through its hands. The stone on countless wedding fingers exists because of quiet decisions made in a few locked rooms in London and South Africa. But behind that promise of eternal love sits a story the company spent decades burying. This is the story of how one business took a common stone, worth almost nothing, and convinced the world it was rare and priceless. How it fixed the price in secret for 100 years, ran an empire the law could barely touch, and built one of the great fortunes in history on a single, brilliant lie. To understand all of it, we have to go back to a dusty field in South Africa, where the whole illusion was born. In the 1860s, on dry farmland in South Africa near the Orange River, a child picked up a shiny pebble. It turned out to be a diamond. Within a few years, that quiet patch of ground had become one of the largest diamond rushes the world had ever seen. Thousands of prospectors swarmed the region around a town called Kimberley. They dug with picks, shovels, and bare hands, tearing a vast pit into the earth that became known as the Big Hole. And out of it came diamonds, in numbers no one had ever seen. That was the first problem. For centuries, diamonds had been treasured for one reason. They were thought to be almost impossibly rare. They had trickled in tiny amounts from distant riverbeds in India and Brazil, kept for kings and queens. Now South Africa was pulling them out of the ground by the ton. And when something rare suddenly becomes common, its price collapses. Into this chaos walked a young Englishman named Cecil Rhodes. He had arrived as a sickly teenager, sent to work on his brother's farm. But in the diamond fields, he saw something bigger. He started small, renting water pumps to miners whose claims kept flooding. With the money, he began buying the claims themselves. Rhodes saw what the frantic diggers could not. The fortune was not in finding diamonds. It was in controlling them. As long as hundreds of miners flooded the market, prices would keep falling and everyone would go broke together. But if one man owned every mine, he alone could decide how many diamonds the world was ever allowed to see. Claim by claim, he bought out his rivals. In 1888, he fused the biggest holdings into one company. He named it De Beers Consolidated Mines, after two brothers whose farm sat on the richest ground. By the time he was done, De Beers controlled almost all of the world's diamond supply. He had built something new. Not a mining company. A machine for manufacturing scarcity. Hold the diamonds back. Release them slowly. Keep the world convinced they were precious. And keep the real numbers hidden. By the time Cecil Rhodes died, in 1902, De Beers was already the most ruthless monopoly in the history of mining. But the greatest trick of all, the one that would fool billions, had not even been played yet. When Rhodes died, control of De Beers eventually fell to a German-born financier named Ernest Oppenheimer. He had made his fortune in the South African gold fields, and in 1917, he founded a company called Anglo-American, backed by American money. Piece by piece, he tightened his grip on the diamond trade. By the 1920s, De Beers was his. Oppenheimer took Rhodes's machine and made it far more dangerous. Owning the mines was not enough. To truly own diamonds, he had to control every step between the ground and the shop window. So he built one single channel that the world's diamonds would be forced to flow through. It was called the Central Selling Organization. De Beers bought up not just its own diamonds, but as many of the world's other diamonds as it could get, from every new mine that dared to appear. Then it fed them back out in small, tightly controlled amounts at secret sales in London called sites. Only a handful of hand-picked buyers were let in. Each got a sealed box of diamonds at a price De Beers set. Take it or leave it. No haggling. Complain once, and you were never invited back. Through that one channel, De Beers came to control almost every diamond on Earth. At its peak, it moved around 80 to 90% of the world's rough diamonds. It was one of the most iron-fisted monopolies in modern history, and it all ran on Rhodes's original trick. Every time a huge new deposit was found, De Beers did not panic. It quietly bought up the new supply and buried it in vaults, releasing it drop by drop, so the price never fell. The public never saw the mountain of diamonds locked in the dark. They saw the trickle in the shop window and believed every stone was rare. But there was a crack deep inside the machine, and by the 1930s, it had split wide open. A monopoly on supply is worth nothing if people stop wanting to buy. And people were walking away. The Great Depression had gutted spending across the world. In the United States, diamond prices crashed, and diamonds were falling out of fashion. To survive, De Beers realized a chilling truth. Controlling how many diamonds the world saw was no longer enough. It would have to control how the world felt. And that is where this story turns dark. Quick word before we go on. If you are still with me, thank you. It means a lot, and it keeps this channel running. So if this story has its hooks in you, do me one favor. Hit like and subscribe so the next one finds you. Now, back to it. Because what De Beers did next was its most cunning move of all. They were about to teach the whole world to love a lie. In 1938, Ernest Oppenheimer's son, Harry, boarded a ship for New York. He was going to meet an advertising agency called N.W. Ayer, and the question he carried was unlike anything in business. He did not want to sell one diamond or one brand. He wanted to know if advertising could reach into the mind of an entire nation and change what people believed about a stone. The agency studied it and came back with a cold, confident answer. Yes, it could be done. But not by talking about money or size or quality. It would only work by chaining diamonds to the one thing no person can ever put a price on: love. What they built was not really advertising. There was no logo. De Beers did not even put its name on most of it. Instead, the agency set out to sew diamonds into the very idea of romance, so deep that people would forget it had ever been any other way. They started in Hollywood. Film stars were handed diamonds to wear. Screenwriters were quietly nudged to write diamond moments into love stories. Planted articles ran in magazines about the jewels of the rich and famous. Little by little, one idea was pushed into millions of minds: that a real proposal of marriage was somehow incomplete without one particular stone. De Beers was no longer just controlling a pile of rock. It was rewriting a human tradition from the inside. Because before this campaign, the diamond engagement ring was not some ancient custom. Many couples bought no ring at all. Those who did might pick any stone they liked. There was nothing sacred about a diamond on a bride's hand. De Beers made it feel sacred on purpose to sell more rock. And it worked. Diamond sales in America began to climb, even before the campaign hit its most famous moment. The agency had proven something a little frightening. Desire itself could be manufactured. A company could sell you not a product, but a feeling. And yet the most powerful line in the history of advertising had still not been written. It would come late one night from an exhausted copywriter who almost did not bother. And it would lock the lie into the human heart for the next 70 years. In 1947, a copywriter at the agency named Frances Garrity was working late on the De Beers account. She was exhausted, and she had nothing. As the story goes, she scribbled a few words before falling asleep, almost as an afterthought, not even sure they were any good. 4 words. A diamond is forever. It was perfect. In 4 words, it did everything at once. A diamond lasts forever, so a marriage lasts forever, so love itself lasts forever. And because a diamond is forever, you must never sell it. That last piece was the quiet genius. If people held on to their diamonds instead of reselling them, a flood of second-hand stones would never come back to crash the market. In one line, De Beers sold the dream and protected the monopoly in the same breath. A diamond is forever became the beating heart of De Beers for the rest of the century, later crowned the greatest advertising slogan of the entire 20th century. And what it did to human behavior was staggering. In the 1930s, only about 1 in 10 American brides got a diamond engagement ring. By the end of the century, it was more than 8 in 10. An entire culture had been rebuilt around a single stone in 2 generations. That is not marketing. That is mind control at the scale of a nation. Then came the final touch, and this one was pure greed. De Beers wanted people spending as much as humanly possible, so it invented a rule. Through its ads, it told men how much of their income to hand over for the ring. First 1 month's salary, then 2. In Japan, where De Beers built the same tradition out of thin air, it pushed 3. There was no history behind these numbers. They were made up by an advertising department to set the price of love, and millions of people just obeyed. By now, diamonds were moving in staggering numbers. On any given day, somewhere in the world, countless couples were getting engaged with a stone that De Beers had dug up, held back, and priced to the penny. It controlled how many diamonds existed and how badly the world wanted them, at the very same time. But that perfect sparkle was hiding 2 very dark secrets. One was how the price was really being held so high. The other was where some of those diamonds came from, and how much blood was on them. For most of the 20th century, the way De Beers kept prices high was not just clever marketing. Under the law of many countries, it was a crime. De Beers was running a cartel. It fixed the price of diamonds. It decided how many the world could buy, and it crushed anyone who tried to sell outside its system. In the United States, the biggest diamond market on Earth, that kind of price fixing was flatly illegal. De Beers knew it. So for decades, it refused to fully set foot in America, running its cartel from a safe distance in London and South Africa. For years, Senior De Beers men could not walk into the United States at all because they risked arrest the moment they landed. The company that supplied most of America's diamonds could not send its own bosses into the country. Finally, in the early 2000s, the lawsuits caught up. Accused of illegally fixing prices and lying to the public, De Beers paid a settlement approaching $300 million to make them go away. But the darkest cost was never counted in dollars. It was counted in lives. Every diamond came out of the ground, and for a long time, that ground was worked in brutal conditions. In the early days at Kimberley, black miners were locked in closed compounds and strip-searched like criminals, while the wealth they clawed out of the earth flowed straight to men like Rhodes. Rhodes poured part of his fortune into forcing British colonial rule across southern Africa, leaving wounds that have never fully healed. And then, in the 1990s, the world learned a terrible new phrase: blood diamonds. In war-torn nations like Angola and Sierra Leone, rebel armies seized the mines and used the stones to buy guns, fueling savage civil wars in which countless civilians were butchered and maimed. Those conflict diamonds bled into the very same global market that De Beers had built and ruled for 100 years. The beautiful symbol of eternal love had, in too many cases, paid for slaughter. So here was the truth beneath the sparkle. A common stone, made precious by a lie, its price propped up by an illegal cartel, and some of it soaked in blood. That single ring, lifted from a little box under soft light, quietly carried all of it. And still, the empire looked untouchable. Until the one enemy De Beers could never buy, bury, or control finally came for it. By the end of the 20th century, the great machine finally began to break. Enormous new diamond deposits were found far beyond De Beers' reach, in Russia, in Australia, in Canada. Those mine owners had no reason to funnel their stones through London, and slowly the channel that had held the world's diamonds for 100 years began to leak. De Beers' share of the market slid from around 85% in the 1980s to roughly a third within a few decades. Then the family that had ruled it for generations walked away. In 2011, after around 80 years in control, the Oppenheimers sold their remaining stake in De Beers to Anglo American for more than $5 billion. A private dynasty that once thought in centuries handed its empire to a public company that answers to shareholders every 3 months. And in recent years, even that owner decided it had seen enough and put De Beers up for sale. But the final blow to the illusion did not come from a rival or a courtroom. It came from a laboratory. Scientists learned how to grow diamonds. Not fakes, not imitations. Stones chemically identical to the ones torn from the earth. Same structure, same fire, same stone. Grown in weeks and sold for a tiny fraction of the price. The one thing De Beers had spent more than a century selling, that a diamond is rare and special, suddenly could not be defended at all. And here is the strangest part. Even now, with the monopoly shattered and the truth in plain sight, most people still walk into that shop, still choose the natural diamond, and still hand over a fortune to prove their love. The mines changed hands, the cartel crumbled, the company faded. But the belief that De Beers planted in the human heart has outlived the empire that built it. That is the real genius and the real darkness of De Beers. They did not just sell a stone. They sold an idea and wrapped it so tightly around love that we still cannot tell the two apart. A common rock, dug from the earth, priced by a monopoly, polished by a slogan, and passed from hand to hand as the ultimate symbol of forever. It turns out, the diamond really was forever, just not in the way they promised you. If this story changed the way you see that little stone, do not keep it to yourself. Hit like, send it to someone about to buy a ring, and drop a comment telling us which empire to tear open next. And subscribe, because there are many more like this, each one hiding a dark story behind the logo. I will see you in the next one.